order this meeting of the Plain Township Board of Trustees for Tuesday, May 11th. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, before us we have the agenda. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections by fellow board members or department heads at this time? I'm going to put our new business number 2. Thank you, Parks Levy. Sort of. Tom, under zoning, I just follow-up question on earth fees. And then under concerns of trustees, I'm going to add American Rescue Act update, the Stark County Township Association meeting. That being said, any other changes? Agenda will stand as amended. Sheriff's report, turn it over to Lieutenant Carver.
Good evening. We have the April monthly report before you. 1,183 calls for service, a 32% increase from last year. 31 crashes, a 158% increase. Crashes with injury at 9. 66 alarms. Traffic stops 283. That was a 3,044% increase from last year. No, that's not incorrect. As you recall, last year, the thick of the pandemic, we cut back on a lot of things like that, and there would have been next to no traffic stops this time last year. So that's kind of getting back to normal. That's about where we would expect to be as we're coming into nicer weather. 135 citations, 78 arrests, also a significant 68% increase there. 953 vacation and security checks. And that's not just, that's vacation and security checks. That would be less security out of there. The detective's report, 8 cases assigned, 3 cases closed, 1 sex offense, 1 assist other agency, and 1 retaliation closed with an arrest. Look at your comparison 2020, 2021, up in almost every category from last year. We would expect to see a little bit slower in April of 2020. And your comparison
Back in 2018, 2019.
Yeah, and some of that, when you look at coming back to 2020, as we had talked about before, recategorizing a little bit how we do the vacation security checks and how we count some of the internet. So I think you'll see that continue. You can kind of steady progression. Trying more to reflect and separate between calls for service and vacation security checks. Any questions about anything?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay.
Includes the sheriff's report, nothing on unfinished business. It'll take us to new business. Ms. Campbell.
Thank you. Item number 1 is a resolution to approve and authorize payment to the State of Ohio Underground Storage Tank Fund for the 2021 underground storage tank fees.
I will so move on new business number 1.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Haas,
Yes.
Mr. Sabo, Mrs. Harless.
Yes. And that's the end of new business.
New business number 2 point I had. Just want to give a thank you to the public for the successful passing of the Parks levy that will allow us to maintain operations. I know I've still gotten questions afterwards about what type of investments are we going to see. It's maintenance. Any type of capital investments will continue to be funded how it has in the past through grants, donations, and so on. So again, for the public who may not have been fortunate to have seen the 10 articles in the repository between letters to the editor and articles, our dedicated newsletter, social media, radio segments. This is from a maintenance aspect due to the fact that a number of the other revenue streams have either been eliminated or significantly reduced. So that all being said, we know nobody likes to pay any more taxes than they have to, but we appreciate the support. Okay, Fiscal Officer's Report, Mr. Wolf.
Thank you. Fiscal Officer number 1 is a request for resolution to authorize payment of pending warrants in the amount of $120,303.07.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 2 is a resolution to authorize payment of regular payroll in an amount not to exceed $250,000.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 3 is a resolution to authorize payment for the following medical claims.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 4 is the financial report for April.
If anybody's got questions, feel free to see Tom afterwards.
Fiscal Officer number 5 is a resolution to authorize the following transfers.
So moved.
Second, discussion, roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 6 is a resolution to authorize the following transfers of expenses to the Coronavirus Relief Fund.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
And Fiscal Officer number 7 is a resolution to accept OTARMA insurance renewal rates for Plain Township's property casualty and vehicle insurance package with a $6 million liability limit for the period of May 5, 2021 through May 4, 2022 in the amount of $120,048. And there's 3 options to increase the coverage, which we might want to look at least going up to $7 million because of the purchases we made for the COVID money and upgrades and assets. But there's additional $1,025 cost for that increase in coverage.
Also move on fiscal officer number 7 with the upgrading the liability limit to $7 million.
Second.
Discussion, roll call.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
And that concludes fiscal officer report.
Thank you. It's going to take us to the administrator, Ms. Campbell.
Thank you. Item number 1 is a resolution to authorize payment to Canton Data Print for the printing and postage of our 2021 Plain Township Summer Newsletter.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Thank you. Item number 2 is a resolution to authorize payment to Kurtz Brothers for hauling of the yard waste.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, roll call.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Thank you. Item number 3 is a resolution to enter into the attached agreement with the Stark County Health Department in authorized payment for the 2021 mosquito spraying program.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion,
And this is we only pay if we use it. So we may pay that amount, we may pay a little, we may pay none. It just depends on the mosquito season.
I wonder if they're still dealing with the challenge they noted last year during the health advisory of honestly finding people
Yes,
to
they
go out
are.
and do the spraying, so that
Yeah,
may be.
that may play into it too. Good point.
Okay. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
And that ends the administrator report.
Thank you. It's going to take us to fire department. Chief?
All right, thank you. Item number 1 is our monthly report.
Okay.
Thank you. Item number 2 is a resolution by the Plain Township Board of Trustees to authorize purchase of payment for diesel fuel and gasoline to McIntosh Oil from Fund 28A06C.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Item number 3 is a resolution by the Plain Township Board of Trustees to authorize payment and purchase of a training set from iSimulate USA per attached quote for not to exceed $12,000 from 28A05.
So moved.
Second, discussion, roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
And then item number 4 is just kind of a thank you and an announcement. We did do our scholarship from our program at the fire station. We did today over there, just because we didn't know how many family members they bring with the COVID restrictions at the township hall. So we had 2 young ladies receive the $500 scholarship, both from Clayton Township, Darby Curran and Taylor Davis, and they came in today and picked those up, and that's from our, so I just want to say thanks, people support the Fly the Flag program, because that's where most of that money comes from, and we're able to do other charitable donations from that too, so.
That's fantastic.
Good job. Nice.
Thank you, Chief.
That closes fire department.
Road Department monthly report. We want to turn this over to Mr. Neff.
Yes.
Any
Present that
reference?
monthly report.
Yeah, presented is the monthly report.
See you with any questions?
Yeah, please see me with any questions.
Okay.
When is paving starting?
We had our pre-con on Tuesday. They said they're gearing for the end of the month. If not, it would be the first week of June.
Wow.
So, and they said once they get here, they're gonna stay, so that's a good,
Yeah.
Oh, they are. It's
Yeah.
not back and forth. That is good.
yeah, just like last year, once they get in here, they're gonna stay. So he
Oh,
assured us
wow.
that. So
Makes a
maybe
huge
6,
difference.
8 weeks, hopefully we can,
And how many miles of road this year?
just over 18.
That's our largest. That almost
Wow.
doubles, so.
That actually almost,
Yeah.
not quite 2.5 times, because when I
Yeah.
started, we were down to 6
You're right.
point something.
Yeah,
So.
they-
Thank you to the residents for
Yeah,
supporting our
again,
road
We
department.
don't have service levels declining, they're actually.
No, they are
increasing.
increasing, yes.
So, okay, thank you. Next item, zoning. Tom?
Thank you, sir. First item on the agenda is a monthly report.
Okay. Next items.
Item number 2 is a resolution to declare items A through E as nuisance abatement.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Item number 3 is a resolution to accept the resignation of Plain Township Board of Zoning Commission member Scott Craig, effective April 16, 2021, and to appoint Miss Angela Alder as a permanent board member to fill Mr. Craig's unexpired term until December 31, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
And item number 4 is a resolution to appoint Ginger Kuhn as an alternate member to the Plain Township Board of Zoning Commission until December 31, 2023.
So moved.
Second. Discussion. Roll call.
Miss Angela Alder was the alternate, and she's being moved up to the permanent spot, and Mrs. Kuhn will take her place.
Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
And then the last thing I have is just an update with that Earth Bees landscaping that's down across from Sunshine Medical. I know they've since taken down the sign, but, I mean, I'm assuming they're still technically operating out of there.
They appear to be, yes.
Eric, this is something where essentially the individuals who have this property are manipulating and gaming. And Tom, quote me back, late 80s or early 90s, somebody else had used the property. They tried to argue that they were using it for agricultural purposes. Clearly
And the
now.
courts said that it was agricultural, that all the equipment he had was agricultural.
But it's not the same equipment that has been sitting down there for the last
Not
couple of
necessarily,
years.
no.
So now they had posted a sign down there, running landscaping business out of there. And I had inquired with Tom about it, because I'm like, wait a minute, you know, there's concerns just because that's a low-lying, very wet area to begin with. But it's not really being utilized for agricultural purposes. You know, if you were tree farming or something, there may be a rationale there. However, I mean, they're just carrying in, hauling in massive logs and keeping it there from job sites. It did take the sign down, however, they're still advertising all over social media. So to me, it's a business and it's not compliant with, you know, what was originally there, and even from a judge's aspect. And I just don't want to see that site continue to morph into something even more so, because unfortunately, they've hauled a ton of different types of fill material and stuff in there, concrete, asphalt, you know, old railroad ties, Lord knows, you know, not getting super environmental, but as a whole, it's just not a good mix. So didn't know if there's anything we can really do to push the issue with them from its, whether it's a cease and desist until they get it properly zoned, or it doesn't get properly zoned and they're not permitted to work there. I'm just not inclined to sit here and go, okay, hey, back in late 80s, early 90s, somebody else doing something different and pulling that argument forward.
I'll get with Tom and review what's been done before.
Okay.
I can give you a pretty good feel as to where we can go.
Okay.
Sir, there is an update. We had a phone call from the attorney for the gentleman that owns, or the woman that owns the property. He asked that we extend the date. I think the date went till tonight. He asked that we extend the date. He just got the paperwork. He's trying to work his way through it to figure out what's going on.
Who is it, Tom?
I'm gonna have to get back with you.
Okay, because I can give him a call too.
Extend the application date for rezoning, or what are we talking? Extending a date for what?
Yeah, basically extend the application until the first of next month. He was supposed to have it in the first of this month. He called me a couple days before the first, and so I went ahead and told him, yeah, that's fine.
No, I wouldn't extend it beyond that though.
Because he came in so late. But just so you know.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, next Parks Department, Rob.
Thank you. Just want to also echo Scott and say thank you for the support of our Plain Township residents for the Parks Levy in incredibly difficult times. We work very hard to earn your support. We'll continue to do so throughout the term of the levy. Completely right. So thank you very, very much, and we'll continue to work hard for you. Item number 2 is my monthly report.
Next.
Item number 3 is a resolution by the Plain Township Board of Trustees to approve payment to Four Enterprises in an amount not to exceed $3,160 for maintenance and repairs of the splash pad to be taken from Fund 01F02A.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mrs. Harless,
Yes.
Mr. Sabo,
Yes.
Mr. Haas.
Yes.
Thank you. Item number 4 is a resolution by the Plain Township Board of Trustees to approve an authorized purchase and payment to Pioneer Manufacturing in the amount not to exceed $20,797 for a paint machine to be taken from Fund 14A08 and Fund 01F05.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mrs. Harless,
Yes.
Mr. Sabo,
Yes.
Mr. Haas.
Yes.
Thank you. Item number 5 is a resolution by the Plain Township Board of Trustees to hire Aaron Inkinen for Parks, Buildings, and Grounds seasonal at a rate of $12 an hour and no benefits to be paid from Fund 01B, 01A, and Fund 14A, 01B with a higher date of May 17, 2021, pending drug and alcohol testing.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, roll call.
Mrs. Harless,
Yes.
Mr. Sabo.
Yes.
Mr. Hawes.
Yes.
Finally, in the spirit of what was spoken to earlier, this resolution before you is just to be procedural in the application of ODNR NatureWorks grant to solicit for permanent pickleball courts at Albion Park. They require a resolution from the board to support the application and protocols of following the grant process.
I will so move on parks number 6.
I'll second.
Discussion, roll call.
Mrs. Harless,
Yes.
Mr. Sabo.
Yes.
Mr. Hawes.
Yes.
Thank you, that concludes parks.
Okay, nothing under law director communications. That brings us to the portion of the meeting. Public speaks. If there's anybody in the audience that wishes to address the board, ask that you state your name and address for the record for the fiscal officer.
Okay. My name is Candy Ziegler. I'm at 1264 South Brook Circle, Canton 44721.
Thank you.
Go ahead whenever you're.
I've been a resident of Plain Township since 1978, and we have recently built and moved to South Brook Circle, which is the south side of Community Christian Church, east of Market. First Christian. And my concern is the fence that has been installed by DHOF on, there's the wonderful Stark Parks Trail there. And now that nice weather is starting, the activity is increasing. And I have some safety concerns that the fence has caused there to be poor visibility. There are blind spots. If you walk along the trail next to the fence, there are blind spots. You cannot tell who is coming, and that could be dangerous for anyone, walkers, runners, bikers. It's more obstructive, causing some walkers that we've talked to recently since the fence went up. The lone walkers are concerned that they're more vulnerable. They aren't walking with anybody, and when the path was open with no fence, you could at least see if there was a problem ahead. The width of the trail is diminished, and at the end, at the far east end of the trail, there's a right angle turn that is just a collision waiting to happen. And my problem is that I'd like to see us prevent accidents before they happen. There's more of an open concept by the same builder in the sanctuary where the trail just goes and goes and goes with no fencing. And so it just seems that if the upright boards could be removed from this fence, there would still be a fence that would block things, and that would be a little more satisfactory. I have been, this is not the only place I've been, I have called Plain Township zoning, trustees, the sheriff, Starks Parks, and DHOP. So, I'm just very concerned.
Well, as I alluded to earlier, just for the record's sake, it's a private property matter. Plain Township's not involved. The only thing that we're involved from would be ensuring fence height compliance, and from a setback, fencing can technically be on the property line. I actually had a conversation with Dan DeHoff this afternoon after you and I had spoke. He informed me that he and Bob Font, the director of Stark Parks, have spoken, and that they're both in agreement that it's fine where it's at. And the reason being, one, DeHoff donated the property, didn't charge anything to Stark Parks to be able to provide that trail through there. Without that donation, that trail would not even be there.
Right.
Two, the placement of the fence has to do with, there's also a utility easement through there.
Right.
And if there's one thing, utility easements get absolutely no play. So with what was left of the space, it's still a traditional scale walking path. That's the only place they could put that fence, and that was a condition as they were talking with developers in order to keep those individual yards private and not have folks from the parks trails coming off. Now with respect to the security concerns, actually Lieutenant Carver and I exchanged some messaging today. And Lieutenant Carver, it's the Parks Ranger that would be the primary response to any trails related first, and you guys provide essentially
Correct.
backup in a situation.
Yeah, we have, concurrent jurisdiction, obviously, still within Stark County, but Stark Parks has their own rangers, which are certified law enforcement officers that patrol all of their grounds and handle any incidents or security concerns that would arise on their trails. We regularly provide assistance and extra patrol, things like that, but if there were to be some sort of an incident on there while the rangers are on duty, they would respond and handle that. So it's really their area of concern.
I mean, from a line of sight aspect, I was over there today as well. Most of it is pretty straight line of sight. There's a couple bends to which I agree. That, as I indicated during our call, the only thing that we can potentially do would make a request over to Stark Parks, whether they put some type of signage on the fence or on a post, similar to like when you're on a road, slight turn to the left, slight turn to the right, or sharp turn to the left, sharp turn to the right. That'll ultimately be at their discretion. I did attempt to call Mr. Font this afternoon, was not available. I did not leave him a message, and I can make another call. But with respect to the township, I'm confident from our sheriff's deputies and the patrols and the coverage. I mean, historically, there's some stretches even down past Gervasi where they got the fence right on that trail there and right against railroad. We haven't received any volume of complaints of issues there, and that's probably actually a more discreet or hidden. I mean, John, I know you and Marilyn walk a good portion of trails. Have you guys done that portion that wraps around the backside of the still house and
Yes.
the crush house?
Yes.
So as it
Very much
wraps
so.
up around, I mean, you've got the bushes,
Yes.
fence line, it's pretty much the path that you're right on. Similar circumstance, and I can tell you, I ride that, and that's one of those where I just know I've got to take it slow around there. Unfortunately, we can't control everybody's behavior, but some of it is, a familiarity aspect, and given that is a newer stretch that's been opened, some of it may be, training, additional requests, should you be able to talk with Mr. Font or one of the Stark Parks folks, maybe if they'll even get out and do an educational piece on it and help folks get acclimated with trails. Clearly, they've got the financial resources within their park system, whether it's signage or that, but realistically, am I missing anything else, Eric? Okay. That's
Well, I
unfortunate.
just wanted to be on the
Yeah.
record that my concern for the safety.
And I would welcome you to come back anytime
Okay.
for any meetings, anything township related. This is what the forum's for. Best we can do is help bridge a connection with the parties that have the control, because we can't impose anything that we don't
Right.
have within our realm of responsibility.
Thank you.
Yep. Anybody else wish to address the board?
I'm not sure.
Okay. So she did all the talking. All right.
Silent partner.
All right. Well, that'll conclude public speaks. It does take us to concerns of trustees. First item that was noted, Skyland Pines. As we know, it was in today's paper. There had been notice late last week about rezoning considerations for the golf course. Of course, whether it's rumors or credible news, they made the approval to change it to light industrial. On that note, knowing Plain Township abuts it on the east side residential development, I left a message for the ward councilman over there Still waiting to hear back from him, but I did have a good conversation with another one of the ward councilmen, John Mariel, who I've had a good working relationship with, and asked him on the behalf of our board, regardless of what goes in over there, whether it's a rumored Amazon warehouse facility to it's a new strip plaza store, whatever it may be, I've asked that they'll do some type of aesthetics / sound barrier. So similar like we dealt, John, I think you and I dealt with this one, Central Allied, when they started the quarrying on the east side of Harmont. Residents on the west side of Harmont were concerned with, you know, the noise from the mining and the trucks and the dust and the dirt. So they mounted it, some spots, some trees and so forth. So he's happy to help advocate for us on that. John was insistent that he hasn't seen or heard of any plans. I've also left messages with the mayor and the deputy mayor over there, because I know we did have a resident who reached out to us by email, and they were in attendance at that meeting last night. So I think they're well aware that, again, this is nothing that we can directly do, but this is where working those relationships, you know, for something moving forward. So I just wanted that noted. Second item I had was the American Rescue Act update, and essentially, for anybody that's followed the news, states, counties, villages, and cities have all been included to get a piece of this national debt that's being issued to help cover infrastructure and so forth. However, the 1,308 townships in the state of Ohio, 17 of which are in Stark County, got left out along with two other states. The Treasury Secretary, Janet Yellen, was to have issued opinion on Monday. She did provide a little bit of insight, but as far as any numbers and how all of that money is going to be divided is still outstanding. We expect, because we've been very vocal through the County Township Association, that we'll have an update next week. Essentially, there's four pots of money. The state, approximately $5.6 billion. Entitlement cities, 2.243. Counties, 2.267. And then other units of local government, 815 million. I'm not a fan of all this national debt, and I won't go off into that. But at the end of the day, if we're all going to be on the hook, our dollars absolutely have to come back to our community. We should not be subsidizing municipalities and villages across the state or anywhere else. So, you know, Elisa and I have chatted, you know, not putting the cart before the horse, but do some brainstorming on what types of serious capital projects that this could be, whether it's extension of sanitary to, you know, Diamond in, what was it, Alino, or I forget.
Yeah.
Or, you know, even, you know, historically, you look at the Laurel Ridge allotments, the number of septic systems back there that have been replaced or need to be replaced and are technically close to failing by health department standards. Those are the types of things I think we need to think about. So if this comes to, just like we did with the prior COVID CARES money, we had the planning. Really, it becomes a matter of execution. So we're not one of these communities that's sitting here going, well, we're really not sure what to do with this. We want to make sure it's prudently expended, like anything else. But you know, what gives us the biggest bang for the buck there? So.
Especially when you take into consideration population.
Mm-hmm.
You start talking about the population of the people, at least half of that resides in those 17 townships.
We've got, it's 56% of Stark County residents reside in a township.
So you're literally, with the distribution of those funds, if it excludes townships in the entire state of Ohio, you are excluding the assistance to 50% of the population that could get help in their local communities from that money. That stinks.
It's foul. I mean, and we're looking at the short term and making sure we're included in that.
Correct.
But the long-term fix is, how do we get the language changed to where this absolutely never happens again? Because in short, the townships were labeled as a non-entitlement entity. So what makes a village or a municipality an entitlement agency versus a township? We're all local form of government. We're providing very similar, if not the same services in a lot of situations. And I mean, for our situation, you look at us in Jackson. We're the 2 largest townships in Stark County. We're in the top 10 in the state of Ohio, so we're bigger than a lot of cities and villages that are even out there. And I just find, I'm sure there are plenty of blame to go around politics at the federal level on this, but you know, we're continuing to bird dog it, and I just want to provide that update. Last update, reminder, next week, Stark County Township Association meeting, May 20th. We have the Ohio Highway Patrol coming in to give a presentation. That'll be over at Central. If you haven't RSVP'd and you're coming, make sure you RSVP. So our gracious sponsor, Mr. Eric Williams, is only covering for those who are showing up and not.
Must be present to win.
And
Yes.
Mr. Haas, is there an attendance cap? Because some of us were just kind of waiting to see.
We were at 14 right now, and based upon this big.
So we can-
Historically, those meetings are 25 to 30,
Okay,
25
so
to 30
we can
people.
come if,
Oh, yeah,
okay,
more than
Thank you.
welcome to, so.
okay.
Because RSVPs are due by Monday the 7th.
Okay, I just know department heads, we like to come especially in support when it's at Plain Township, but we also didn't want to take a spot if
No.
we were
it's-
worried about that.
We do
Okay,
know it's a little lower. I mean, again, with our county-wide, or our county township counterparts, I mean, we know there's a portion of them that never attend these things.
Yeah.
No matter what. There's a portion that are die-hard, and, I mean, the ones that do come, but maybe not always, there's some that, you know, just not comfortable to still get out
Okay.
totally, but we'll be covering our normal business.
perfect, and it's a good topic, so I know
Yeah.
that we wanted to.
Not near as good as the sheriff's office, you know,
Right,
presented, but, so. Okay, anything else on our concerns of trustees? Okay, concerns of the fiscal officer.
No concerns,
Takes us to, let's see, nothing for approval of minutes.
no minutes, no.
Okay. We do have a need for executive session, so I'm going to make a motion be hereby resolved by the Plain Township Board of Trustees, Stark County, Ohio, to adjourn to executive session at 6:39 PM from this regular meeting as authorized under Ohio Revised Code 121.22G for the purpose of consideration of 1B, employment of a public employer or official, 1E, promotion or demotion of a public employer or official, 1F, compensation of a public employer or official, 3, a conference with the law director or other retained counsel concerning pending or imminent court action.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.